Jasmine, I think I wanted someone to give her that same validation at the beach, and I didn't see it.
Like Jason and Jasmine, Zach and Brittany also go farther down the line as far as friendship goes. Okay, they have been through thick and thin, and suddenly the valley happened, and new friends happened, and Zach feels like he's been left out, being ignored. And unlike romantic relationships, friendships aren't bound by exclusivity. Yet the emotional impact can just be as intense, and that's what exactly happening in this situation. Hey guys, welcome to B-Side Reality. We are Panda.
And Issel, and we are a couple who can't get enough of reality TV.
This channel is our space to dissect the drama, the chaos, and the wild moments.
From our favorite shows, and hopefully yours too.
So grab a snack
Settle in,
and let's dive in.
We suffered our first recording mishap.
It's a debacle.
I feel so bad. So it's Sunday morning right now, but yesterday, Saturday evening, we sat down to record. We were recapping the Valley, and we were going to do a two-parter actually, because we were going to record the Valley and then we were going to record 90 Day Fiancé Kim and TJ continuation.
Yeah, we were trying to act professional but didn't hit the record button and talked for 1 hour and 30 minutes among ourselves, thinking it is getting recorded.
There's a script in the sense that there is a checklist. Other than that, it's all just like, what are our thoughts, and we're processing in real time. And sometimes we're still intimidated, I think, by this camera that is recording us. And so it's like silent for some time. So I'm thinking what happened is I accidentally clicked the stop button on this and I never clicked record again.
Yeah. No, it just this thing only made it very clear that the learning curve is steep and we have still a long way to go, where we can be very comfortable and professional and create better content for you guys. So we hope the journey is on and we are making some stride every day towards that.
Yeah. So, getting into the episode, we are covering the Valley,
yeah.
episode 8. We start off at Sheena's place. Sheena is not getting enough screen time. We talked about how in the last episode she was awkwardly standing there as Lala was talking to Jesse, and how she just was not adding anything of significance to that moment. And so she got herself her own scene. She's hosting a gathering. Janet and Brittany are attending. The biggest thing from this moment was just Janet and Jason venting about the rumor that was shared in the previous episode. It sounds like at the event itself, Kristen, Luke, Janet, and Jason talked it out. They kind of moved on from it. But then after the party ended, when Janet and Jason reached home, they were talking to their mothers, or maybe just Janet's mother, and that's when Janet's mom got visibly upset about the rumor, and she's the one who was telling Janet, this is a bigger deal than you think. So despite how it seemed to be resolved at the shark party, now they want an apology from Jasmine. And Jason is actually even saying not just that like she brought this up, but she needs to apologize for making it up. I think that's interesting that they jumped to that kind of claim, because I think
they basically concluded that this is Jasmine's, she orchestrated this whole thing. Started and originated from Jasmine, and she's the whole and sole responsible person in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all over the place, because at some point Janet has like a little confessional scene, and she's saying that Kristen is good at creating distractions from the reality of Danny doing whatever he does. One, is it Jasmine or is it Kristen? Just be consistent. And then two, I do feel like Janet is not being honest. I feel like Janet's behavior has kind of just shown that she does stir the pot, and so I don't believe that her parents or her mother got involved here. You know, she threw out during that confessional scene too that if there's a husband in this group that's trying to cheat and failing, it's not mine. Even that whole thing is kind of separate from the ring, or is it? I don't know. It felt like a different rumor, or it felt like there was more to be said about that, but she didn't deliver everything. She did enough just to be like, I'm going to instigate some shit, but I'm not going to follow through and like fully commit to anything that can be traced back to me being the messy one in this group. But just because she's not being explicit doesn't mean she's not messy.
It usually feels like Janet seems to have a few people on her bad side and she doesn't hesitate to take shots at them whenever she gets the chance. It feels more like Jasmine is the point of target in this season. In the previous season, it was Zach who she was attacking relentlessly, and I think she's going to stretch it as long as this season lasts and stir up things. I mean, this is going to be Janet's highlights for this season. Like, she grows on these things only. Like, she has some trouble, some trauma, some this from some person, and the whole show circles around her on those aspects.
Yeah, she's got beef with Zach, Kristen, and now Jasmine as well. But I don't know, this feels real, honestly. Like, and we'll talk about this more in the beach scene. But the same story with Vanderpump Rules. Like, they were a solid group of friends. Now they're being filmed, and it's different to have your dynamics play out in front of an audience who has opinions, who can weigh in and take sides, and having the weight of public scrutiny on you, because I think I've heard that about Janet and just how in general, I mean, again, I'm not a fan of Janet, and it's based on how things went down for her in season 1, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people agree with that.
When you break it down like that, you could see that Janet and Christine are not much different from each other. They both hold grudges. They make it very clear that certain cast members are in the crosshairs and they are not shy from stirring the pot. That's their USP.
Yeah, I think the only thing though is, at least with Kristen, I feel like there's some ownership and accountability, whereas the way that Janet and Jason conduct themselves, it's like they are on a high horse every single time. And like the audacity of anyone to kind of like group them as part of, or paint them as like messy. You are in a reality TV show. I'm sorry. By default, that is exactly what happens. Like, what is the point of the show if you're not like that? But I personally just can't vibe with someone who is just like holier than thou, can never accept that they're also human and imperfect. And every time they may own up to that, it just feels like a redirect from the true faults that they actually have.
Too sanctimonious for TV.
Yeah, that is the gist of the gathering at Sheena's place. We do get a little bit though about how apparently after the shark party, after the cameras left, Zach had said something to Sheena about someone called Jared, and I, for the life of me, have no idea who the fuck Jared is.
Maybe the guy with the cap who always lurks around in the background, never gets chance to speak in the shows, I guess, but he's always there. He was there in the shark party as well.
Yeah, it must be a core friend.
I think I have seen Zach and Jared with Brittany a lot. Season 1, I guess. I think in Vanderpump Rule as well. If that person with the baseball cap is Jared, in fact.
Okay. In essence, I don't really know him. It doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of solid screen time because he's not really a main character in either The Valley or Vanderpump Rules. However, it seems like Zach said something really horrible, super offensive, worse than Jared can go fuck himself. They kind of danced around it. I don't really know ultimately what was said that was so offensive. And no one will just outright say it, which is making it difficult for me as an audience member to be like, you know what, valid that you're not getting a lot of defense here, Zach, or I don't know. Like,
it gives a feeling like, oh, he said a bad word,
Yeah, I mean,
that kind of vibe to me,
That is basically what it comes down to when Zach starts to talk about it, is that like this is hyperbole and like you're taking it
too literally.
Yeah. Again, what was said, don't know. But this is, I think, like, again, another pattern for me of Janet just like throwing something out there, and it's like, okay, thanks. I don't know anything about this man who is trying to cheat and failing, and I don't know anything about Zach and what the hell he said that really is so offensive. Like, the details matter here, okay? And so I don't like it when Janet just throws these things out there, and I'm just like, how do I make an informed opinion here? Like, you didn't give me anything.
I'm supposed to react.
Yeah. But we know from this episode, like, Zach is at Kristen's place and he is feeling bothered that Brittany's reaction was less than friendly toward him. Whatever he said, Brittany heard it and she was like, what did you just say? And look, okay, the other thing is, whenever they have a party, everyone's drinking, okay? So, like, these are people who are not sober, probably, having these conversations. So, does that play into the reaction? Can they kind of
overdo it?
Yeah. But 2 is, if that is her approach, was there a more friendly way to do it, a more friendly way to react? Because regardless of what was said, it's weird. Like, if it is hyperbolic and this is Zach and this is his personality, like, and you're a longtime friend, wouldn't you know my friend Zach is super hyperbolic and like just over the top? Is there something that we as an audience don't know that like Brittany does, and so she's just like, oh my god, he said this, it's not just a joke, it's serious? Or is she really being unfair to Zach by like, oh my god, like, even though she's supposed to be my friend, she sees me in such a negative way that she thinks that I would seriously say this, whatever it was. This is going to be expanded upon more later in the episode. We now are at the beach scene. Before the beach scene happened, it seems that Brittany had met up with Jasmine to let her know that, like, hey, Jason and Janet basically believe that you have made up this rumor, and so they are expecting an apology from you. And Jasmine is saying that no, like, she's not going to apologize. And I kind of get that because, just from my understanding, I don't think that she was making the rumor up. Like, Kristen is the one who blurted it out, and maybe at max, Jasmine heard about the rumor and she didn't believe it. But when Kristen checked in with her, she confirmed that she had heard about it. She could have just said, yeah, Kristen, I heard about it. I don't believe it. And that's all that Kristen needed to, like, blurt out. I kind of get it. Like, it's different to be like owning up to the fact that I did talk about it with Kristen versus, yeah, I made this up.
Yeah.
But yeah, going into that beach day, we see Jason and Janet with a metal detector. Apparently, Janet has been into this hobby since her 30th birthday, and we looked up her age. She's like 40 now, and so she apparently has been into this hobby for like the past 10 years. At the same time, one of Jason's first lines in the scene is like, do you know how to use it? Do you remember how to turn it on? And it just feels so fake. Like, I think he meant to say, do you know how to use it? Because it feels like this is your first time. And he kind of remembered after the fact that, like, oh yeah, this is your hobby. And so he added the remember how to turn it on. Sheena and Lala join as well. I just don't like that we're getting so much more screen time with both of these people.
It's kind of production's way of making a bridge between the more successful show of Vanderpump and the Valley, because Valley is still in a very nascent stage. It's just 2 seasons, let's say 2 seasons old, and it's still gaining its momentum compared to Vanderpump Rules, and also to have potential for other spin-offs and stuff like that. Bravo TV must be using this techniques to make it more natural, more believable for the audience.
It could be. If they're using this as like a test season to see how Lala and Sheena kind of impact ratings,
Yeah.
they could be joining the main cast in that. I don't know how I feel about that because everything with how things went down on the last season of Vanderpump Rules. I mean, they're the same thing that I talked about with Janet, where it's like, fine, be messy, but can you be accountable? And I just feel like they're so resolute and stubborn. I just don't see enough reflection and sincerity when they
Mess up.
yeah. And then we do eventually see Kristen, Jasmine, and Luke join. Sorry, another thing that was like discussed here is Janet apparently after the shark party had rage texted Jasmine.
Yes.
Because again, upon reflection, they kind of realized that like this whole thing was fucked up and you made up this rumor. How dare you when we're friends?
It all started after Brittany got this message from Jasmine, I guess, that she's not gonna apologize for it, which they are eagerly awaiting.
And yeah, like they're all kind of in their own siloed pockets at the beach event. Like
Yes.
Luke, Jasmine, Kristen are kind of a little bit away from Sheena, Lala, etc. And yeah, night is coming soon. Jason and Janet are talking about how to approach this issue.
Somehow it felt like they came to this beach setting having this confrontation in mind, that we're going to confront Jasmine and demand apology from her. That's the only thing in their mind. Because as soon as Jasmine arrived, they became visibly upset and they start scrambling, like what to do, like how to approach and stuff like that. Like Jason was like, okay, should we go now? And Janet, like, okay, let me prepare for it. Give me a minute. I have to be in that mental space and stuff like that. So they are expecting something happening. They wait for a few moments, expecting Jasmine to come to them and apologize. When that's not happening, so then they went for the plan B to confront her.
Yeah, I mean, it was all super passive aggressive because even before they built up the courage, I guess, to like confront her, they had a moment where they were joking about like the metal detector and, the hobby and like, what do you expect to find? And like, they were joking about how, oh, maybe Jason took his ring off and so that metal detector would be helpful.
Wow.
Which again, yeah, plays into the whole like this was planned.
Yes.
You wanted to talk about this. But the other thing too is Janet was not into this. She didn't want to confront her. She didn't feel like it was on her to initiate. But Jason's approach is not like that, and I can very much see that because in the last episode he directly talked to Danny and apologized, and so he in this moment too wanted to approach Jasmine directly, even though she wasn't showing any signs of initiating. And they know, I think, at this point that Jasmine is not interested in making any such apologies about making up the rumor. But yeah, they do it. They pull her aside, and it is frustrating watching it go down because my understanding is Jasmine and Jason have actually had a long friendship and a more intimate friendship than the one that Jasmine has with Janet. And so I think they genuinely wanted to understand each other and move forward from this. But as it was playing out, Jasmine says something, Janet cuts in. Jasmine is like, please hold off on your questions, starts talking, but I don't think Janet likes that. And so she starts walking away. And so Jasmine has to like raise her voice. And Janet comes back around and is like, why are you yelling at me? And I would be so frustrated with that because I'm trying to explain it, but now you're making it difficult for me to even get the story out. And this is such a critical moment where it's like, okay, finally we're talking about this. And yeah, I understand the blow up and why she ultimately said what she said to Janet about how, like, you're a vibe killer, you give Karen energy. I felt for both Jasmine and Jason, they genuinely were trying to communicate there, and Janet was making it difficult. Maybe if Janet wasn't there, this conversation would have played out in such a
I
different way.
do strongly believe that Jason and Jasmine could have handled this much better from the glimpse we get from Jason and Danny talking it out, even if it was a little flared up, but still they handled it in a very civilized way, I must say. And taking into consideration the how old the friendship runs between Jasmine and Jason and how they have been looking out for each other, they could share some shared values which they uphold. As Jasmine also said, that being the only black people in the group, they look out for each other, and that's so nice. That's so nice, right? The feeling of solidarity, the feeling of looking out for each other, and these kind of friendships are rare these days. And if it is such a meaningful and legit friendship, they should make everything possible to keep it going and mend things as soon as possible. But definitely Janet being present over there fan the fire.
Yeah, like
Thanks.
I am so cautious of this when we're talking. Like, you have friendships that go back decades. I don't think I have a lot of that. High school, I was socially anxious and awkward.
Hmm.
So I don't have a lot of strong ties. And I really cherish the friendships that do go back as old as my undergrad days, because there's just so much context there that has been established, so much that doesn't need to be said. Not to say that I'm not close to the new friends I'm making now, but it's different to share parts of yourself as you were developing and kind of change and outgrew certain stages. They know these things. You don't need to share it. You don't need to say it. You don't even have to remember that these were things that you were. Sometimes it can be held against you, I imagine, like to be held to a standard of like, you were once this person. Why can't you still be this person? I get that there's some nuances there, but like I understand the struggle. At some point you get to an age where you're not making as many friends. And so who do you have to lean on at that point if you're unfriending existing friends?
Correct.
I really feel for her, but at the same time, as soon as Jasmine delivers that cutting line, it makes sense that Jason can no longer engage. Like, that is some widely offensive shit there.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think he has to end it. Like, even though they haven't really talked about anything, they haven't really been able to address much. And yeah, Jason seems very hurt. I don't know the best way to describe it. Like, the experience internally was so external for the audience to see, about him seeing what Jasmine was for him. And, he calls him like the snake in the garden or something.
Snake in the grass.
Snake in the grass. And he wants to publicly declare that Jasmine is the most fake and two-faced person he's ever had as a friend, and she was once like a sister. Like, a lot of these things are spilling out because we're just like, I'm processing in real time, like, oh my god, this friend, and she's saying the most horrible things, and they are horrible things. At the same time, I think she's valid. I think it's coming from, like, she is also experiencing true pain here. And so
And she said too, like Jason is too whipped to understand what's really going on, and without the clutches of Karen Janet, he's not able to see the real truth and able to understand her point of view.
At some point he says that, like, Jasmine is talking shit about everyone here, and Jasmine is like, we're all talking shit. And honestly, that's true. But also, Janet talks a lot of shit too. Like, case in point, the two things I've already brought up about her instigating and saying things, and maybe she's not explicitly saying what was said, but she's doing enough to throw dirt and suggest and imply things, okay? And it's so interesting too, because at that point, Jason and Janet are leaving, and Jasmine is also having a visceral reaction, I guess, to everything going down. And she's talking to the whole group at large about her friendship with Jason and how much this bothers her. And I'm like wondering, how does everyone feel about this? Because all that we really see is Jasmine talking. At some point, Kristen takes a moment to clarify that even though she had talked to Jasmine about this, she did not initially hear about this rumor from Jasmine. And so it's inaccurate for anyone to say that Jasmine brought this up to Kristen.
Kristen was very clear. She heard it from multiple sources.
Other people have talked about this outside of Janet or
And
Jasmine.
she didn't believe. She just said it in spite to retaliate when Janet spoke about Danny.
Yeah.
So it is just a retaliatory move, and she heard it from multiple people. And she doesn't believe.
Yeah, Kristen threw out a dumb ass rumor, right? He takes off his ring when he goes out because Janet was making it seem like Danny has a substance abuse problem. And again, from the last episode, I can say that when he's drunk, he's not great. Is he someone who needs like real help? I don't know. And so I get Kristen's point that like you are also basically starting rumors in a sense, okay? So here's a little dose of your own medicine, and Janet cannot take it. I remember watching that scene though in the beach and thinking, how is everyone really reacting towards this? Because I'm on Jasmine's side. I see it. I understand that Janet is annoying and that she is a problem here, but we don't get a sense of how that is from anyone else, and it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Because she's also looking for validation, and I just wonder, did anyone ever give it to her? And this is kind of going into our next scene where Zach, Nia, Kristen, and Brittany are meeting up for lunch. Again, it's brought up that Jasmine is not the source of this rumor, but Zach also calls out Brittany and says, hey, like, you have a history of downplaying and hiding bad things that Jax does, and it feels like you're doing the same thing for Janet. And yet for me, if I do anything remotely bad, you hold me to a different standard. And I'm a supporter of Zach. I'm on his side last season about how, I don't remember what he was saying, but like someone was like she's pregnant, you should care. And he's like, I don't care. I get that. Like she wasn't in the room. He was venting about his feelings. And at the end of the day, maybe he just needs to be validated that like the certain things that he's experienced is hard, it's tough, and it hurts him. And that people understand why he would feel that way. Jasmine, I think I wanted someone to give her that same validation at the beach, and I didn't see it, other than maybe Kristen. I know you were also having a reaction when we were watching that scene.
Like Jason and Jasmine, Zach and Brittany also go farther down the line as far as friendship goes, okay? They have been through thick and thin, and towards the end of Vanderpump Rule days, I think this friendship grew and they're pretty strong, and suddenly the Valley happened and new friends happened, and Zach feels like he's been left out, being ignored, and you could complain that, oh, how can you complain like that? Brittany is good and she's friends to all. She's the most unbiased and stable person in the whole Valley thing. She doesn't belong to any groups and stuff like that. She doesn't take sides. But in my opinion, unlike romantic relationships, friendships aren't bound by exclusivity. Yet the emotional impact can just be as intense. You can feel left out, overlooked, or emotionally unheard and still struggle to find the right moment or words to express it. And that's what exactly happening in this situation. Jax is trying to convey to Brittany that, hey, I am also your friend. Why you're discounting my feelings, like how I am supposed to feel? Like you could be that friend who is a common friend between me and Janet and still understand both of our point of views rather than word by word conveying what I'm saying to Janet and whatever Janet is saying to me. You can understand both of our situations. If you're a true friend of ours, you can always find a way for us to work together, mend our ways, rather than trying, okay, I can't take this, I have to convey and carry this message to Janet because she's a good friend of mine, I can't hear this and stay silent. No, you're not doing anyone any good by that. That's not, in my definition, what a good friend should be doing.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if I ever have a situation where a friend is mad with another friend, I don't think I have the ability to communicate the entirety of that person's feelings. I can't be, person just said this person said that, blah, blah, blah. These are not my emotions. These are my feelings. Like, the way that Brittany can just, like, simply summarize things, maybe it's not sufficient and it's not working. It's not a good method for how they are mediating things. And, like, if she recognizes that, oh my God, Janet is a good friend, I don't know why Zach doesn't see it. Oh my God, Zach is a good friend, I don't know why Janet doesn't see it. Maybe she can try to do more to mediate that and like a meeting between them. I'm trying to think back to like the scenes that have played out. I can't name any specific things that were said, but I do feel like maybe Janet gets a little bit more reassurance versus Zach, who I feel like she just downplays it. Like, oh, I am your friend, I'm still your friend. I'm like, and that's not the same thing as like, I understand you're hurt, I understand why you felt that way, I understand why this happened. If that is what is lacking, if that is what Zach is pointing out, I think that's true, and I think that it's warranted for him to feel hurt. And
like, I'm speaking from my personal experience. We are a group of 7 to 8 people and we we go long back from our university days, and if someone is venting out about somebody, that doesn't mean that person is harboring ill will against it, and I'm not supposed to be carrying that message word by word and just delivering it to the other person. That is not going to make the situation good or bad. That's going to stir the pot. It's going to make situation really worse, and that's not how friendship works. This is basically creating more dispute rather than doing anybody any good.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, she might not be in a position to understand hyperbolic references or how to navigate the friendship, but I could definitely say she could have done better in this situation.
Yeah, and so this kind of brings us back to an earlier scene where Brittany was asked, why is it that so many people have issues with Janet but you don't? And she just said something along the lines of like, that's not the kind of friendship that I have with her, I guess. And even if that's not your personal experience with her, you are surrounded by people who are having that experience. So like, it was valid for Zach to bring up the comparison between how Brittany handles Jax and Janet versus him. I didn't get to hear more about that, about how she downplays or hides. Maybe she has a tendency to, she like filters out certain things and how she perceives it or reacts to it, and that's not reality. Like, other people, especially if they're the target of that hurt, they can't do the same thing. I think she needs to do some more reflection, honestly, on her friendships. And then two, like, the question that has been plaguing me this whole episode is just, what is it that we owe to each other as friends? You know, I've seen on TikTok about, there's more discourse about how like, oh, like, you can set your boundaries, you don't need to do certain things, like drop someone off at the airport. I don't know, these small things that like hopefully you can rely on your friends to help you to do, and how we're kind of losing that in this modern era. And you have people talking about boundaries. It's the same thing here, where it's like, what is it that is expected of a good friendship, and what is it that no, like, you have your own individual needs and you can push back, and you're not entitled to certain things from certain people. So we've kind of talked about what we think is a good or bad friend, and so curious to hear in the comments like how you guys feel and whether any of this has resonated with you guys or if you feel like it's different. Because I will acknowledge it's hard to be a Brittany and feel like you are constantly caught in the middle and feel like it's your role to mediate anything. Like, it's not on her. These are grown ass adult men and women who can communicate on their own.
Correct.
Okay, and then we do join Jason and Janet back at their place, and Janet has been crying and she just doesn't like that. Their newborn son. He can pick up on the energy that she has. And yeah, I think it's great to see this emotion from Janet. I feel a little weird saying that because I can't tell with Janet, you know, I can't tell how much of it is real or not, but she seems to be feeling the loss of Jasmine and just like the finality of what
You're
Jasmine
getting the
said to
same
her.
Jax Taylor vibes from her? Like, I don't feel anything when Jax Taylor cries, so.
I know. We talked about this in the last episode. Even though I know Jax is dangerous, when he expresses remorse, like, part of me is like, wow, he feels it. I know. So I don't know. And I don't want to compare Jax and Janet here, but speaking of Jax, Jason has had some missed calls from Jax at this point, and so he finally calls him back. And Jax is talking about how he's tired of feeling angry, tired of yelling, and that, like, you know, he recognizes that he pushed her away and that he's just gone away with it for so long. But the way that he talks about it is not okay. If he said this to me, I'd be like, oh, you don't mean it. And the other one where he wasn't saying this stuff, I was like, oh my god, he feels really bad. But here, with what he was saying, something like, I've gone away with it for so long, I found it to be acceptable behavior. It's a wake-up call to be here. My dad put me here, something like that. I want to break the cycle. I'm so used to treating her like shit. She let me get away with it for so long. I wish Brittany would have left me a long time ago. If he didn't throw Brittany is responsible for how he is now, if he didn't throw that out there, I would have been like, hey, I'm hearing the right things too. But to have him blame his behavior on Brittany?
You made me a bad person, literally, because you didn't police me much. You gave me too much leeway to grow in this wrong direction. I should have cut my branches in time.
Yeah.
You're the enabler.
It's just crazy. Like, I have no words. It is crazy, though, that Janet and Jason are buying this, because in the previous episode, I would have bought it, but with everything else he added to be like, I've been enabled, I don't know how they're so emotional about it. I don't know how they're so accepting of it. Jason basically says, oh, he's never seen Jax take full accountability of things, and he's not taking accountability. He is saying, it's not my fault, it's Brittany's fault. So the juxtaposition, like if you put this issue with Jax side by side with the issue they are having with Jasmine, how is it that you are more readily able to forgive Jax but not Jasmine? How is what Jax doing like so redeemable?
Yeah, because he's doing it to Brittany.
They're not personally involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I do feel like Jason is an attack dog on behalf of Janet, part of me was like, I feel for him. In some ways, like you're doing what you need to support your wife. But we talked about this in the after show too, that you can be whipped by your spouse, but you don't need to let them steamroll over you. Like if they are not doing things that are good, if they are mistreating other people, you should be able to call them out on that.
It's a hard story when your wife is janitor. Christine, it's difficult to maintain that balance.
Yeah, I applaud Luke because I have seen it. You know, like when Kristen blurted out that rumor, even though he was smiling, I could see that he was not happy with Kristen blurting out an unverified, unconfirmed rumor that she even doesn't even
And they
believe.
used to struggle a lot initially. They didn't have a smooth sailing from the beginning. From the seasons that we have seen them together, they used to fight a lot. Luke used to feel so out of place in LA, and he has to adjust to a lot of things and to this powerful personality like Kristen. It's not easy. But somehow I'm really happy that somehow they have found some middle ground and they seem quite healthy in their relationship. Just hope they get into parenthood as soon as possible. They're vigorously trying for it.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, like at the same time, they talk about in the after show again. Yeah, they're asking various cast members, do you think that Jason is whipped?
Yeah.
And I don't know what Brittany is responding to, but I think she's defending Jason by saying that, oh yeah, just recently we were at an event and Janet kept talking and talking and talking, and Jason had to be like, hey Janet, remember you were gonna let me talk more? And so Janet was like, oh, I'm sorry. And Brittany found that to be very cute. But that is entirely relevant to this question because he was defending himself, okay? It's a good thing that he can stand up for himself, good, against his own wife, okay?
Wow.
But if the question is, my wife has offended somebody, am I going to blindly support her, or do I take a moment to be like, hey, that was not okay? That was not answered. Brittany's example was irrelevant, okay? The last thing that really happens, Jason makes it clear that, hey, you're feeling bad about how you've treated Brittany. The thing that I know that has been stressing her out is that you're not helping to pay the mortgage. You missed several payments. And so Jax is talking about how they have a podcast together and it's very profitable. And so all of the income from that can be directed towards that mortgage, which is great, right? But then we get to the next scene.
Yeah.
Brittany is in the process of moving back into her house with Jax. We can see that she is like trying to remove the cameras or cover them up, and Jax apparently took the ladders, and so it's harder for her to actually do that. And then she starts a call with Jenny, who is Jax's sister, and Brittany is talking about how her wedding rings are missing. The producer then comes to show Brittany a text from Jax, who claims to be hearing what's going on, I guess. It's just freaking weird. Like, to be surveilled.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did hear anything, but he is aware that people are there. And is it like the camera already caught it before it was covered or what? It feels really scary. And yeah, I don't know what Jax is capable of now.
Yeah, it just time and again it verifies the paranoia and control freakness of Jax. And
yeah. So we also have an email from Jax. The email basically states that the home is in foreclosure now. He is not going to pay anything towards the house anymore. He is just walking back everything that he told Jason and Janet. It's just so wild that he could lie about these things because everything is on TV. The things that you say, and then the physical email we weren't shown, but like that could be used as evidence to be like, you lie. I don't understand how he thinks. You know, in the after show they talk about like Brittany's wedding rings, and Jesse says that he's been talking to a lot of lawyers in California who say that an engagement ring is a gift. So Jax has taken those rings. He is not giving it to Brittany. Brittany hasn't seen it, but Jax is claiming he hasn't sold it and that he's gonna hold it.
But he has still explored the possibility of selling it, and just because the value is not good right now, he has to sit on it for longer to have some good value in return.
Yeah, I
My
mean,
God.
Brittany seems to think that he's already sold it, and maybe he did, despite like how bad the value is. Maybe he did sell it because no one has laid eyes on that. And if Brittany and Jax are on the same page about how to utilize that ring.
And he has sold a bunch of things on eBay. I think Janet almost. Like, I was keeping an eye. Those rings are not on eBay.
I don't know what to do with this. This rehab thing, I don't understand how it works. It doesn't, if he is able to walk in and out of homes, mess with cameras, I don't understand what this rehab thing is. Is it even real?
No, he messed up with the cameras before going to the rehab. Rehab is a full-time residency, that's for sure. But he has access to his camera through his phone. He can talk to people over phone. He can talk to his lawyers, real estate agents, his production people. He can access social media. He can talk and video call people. He is virtually everywhere, not physical.
I can't keep track of like what residence they're in. Last episode, when they were talking about the cameras that were up, that was
Their house.
their house.
Yes, which is in both their names. And they were covered with playing cards so that nobody can see who Jax is bringing home. And once he went to the rehab, he took off all those cards before going so that he can see what's happening in the house.
Yeah.
And possibly bugging the place so that he can hear.
Freaking crazy. Brittany has talked about how she is already starting to date. I think once that happens and she's fully moved on, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's so gross that Jax is checking her sex drawer, checking the trash cans, observing the condoms and the condom wrappers.
I mean, move on, man. Just think about how to take care of Cruz and how to provide for a... Because you're gone. Man, you're gone. I'm not expecting anything else from him because he's already nearing 50s, mid 40s. I don't know how long he can really put this act on and make money from show business unless and until he's doing something that is bringing some regular money.
He has a bar. Like, what's happening with that?
Yeah,
I guess we can look into it.
I think we saw some snapshots that it was changing into Brits from Jags or something like that is happening. I just saw the trailer.
Oh, really?
I'm just speculating over here. So the only concern you should have, Cruz, and how you're going to provide for him and give him a better life to be a better human being. Apart from that, I don't see much left.
Anyways, that wraps up this episode. It's exhausting. It was exhausting to go through this. Like, I think we did talk about it, but like not really like this hyper surveillance state or whatever, and just like how crazy Jax was.
And those people who have been through this whole journey of Vanderpump Rules and then coming to Valley, you expect something differently happening, and time and again the same seesaw game that Jax plays, flip-flopping and up and down, and time and again proving that he's nothing but just a douchebag. It's really exhausting.
At your big age, my God, it's just sad. I don't want to deal with the heavy drama of like real life shit, divorce and narcissists and I don't know.
Abusive. That's intense too.
So yeah, thank you guys for joining.
Leave your valuable comments, suggestions about our channel and anything you want to talk about. We'll be happy to reply. And thanks for listening to us once again.
Thank you.
See you soon with a brand new podcast.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of B-Side Reality.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We had a blast breaking it all down.
If you enjoyed the convo, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
See you soon with a brand new episode. Bye.
Bye.